or just great recruiting prowess from Sharon Moore. That kind of takes you into some of the more loquacious recruits who tell you a lot about what they're liking and what they're doing and where they're leaning. And Blake Frazier, guys, and listen, I said this on the last episode. Blake Frazier on his visit, and this is definitely one that Jaden Davis was talking about. He said, big smile on his face, all those guys feeling really good about where we stand with all of those guys. He's a legacy on top of it. And the word I got coming out of that visit was that, hey, mom, dad say, listen, you got to do your due diligence. You need to, make sure that you look around and give all these schools a really, really strong look. Right? That's from other people who were on the visit. And what I would say, Steve, is if you look at his social media habits, it certainly seems to suggest that those people who were saying, man, he was really feeling Michigan a lot, to the point where, he had to be encouraged to kind of slow down a bit. Seems like from his social media takes that was probably right. Now you got to wonder, with Sprague now in the fold, does the class the space kind of shrinking a bit kind of speed a guy like that up, or some of the other guys that we're going to be talking about here?
Right. Yeah. What do we say sometimes? Only at Michigan would the father, or maybe say it's his parents, his dad actually played at Michigan, telling his son, who's clearly leaning towards Michigan, to slow down his recruitment. I don't know. I always crack up at that. I mean, if I was in the position, I'd be doing my due diligence too. But the Frazier's another one that has felt like it's heavily leaning Michigan for a while. I feel like he's a guy who's going to have a spot, whether he committed now or down the road. But yeah, I think the bigger impact on a closing opportunity will be with some other guys. With Frazier, I think we say Clemson, I think, is a school that's kind of consistently been there with him. When he released his top 5, that was, again, to me, it was like, okay, I know Clemson's going to be in there. Who are the 3 other schools even really going to be? And I think Florida, LSU, and I don't even remember who the 5th school was. So, Frazier, tons of value. Another guy underranked, in my opinion. We only have him in 88 still. I don't know if he's been reevaluated anytime recently or not, but he's not an 88. Again, that doesn't mean I think he's like a 5-star I'm not touting Michigan commits to move up to 5-star status or anything. Just do not think he's an 88 at all. But major value that a guy who could really he's a guy who could end up anywhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's capable of playing center, depending on how Michigan decides they want to finish out this class, right? So, tons of value with Frazier's potential addition to the class. But yeah, then it leaks over into, a growing list of potential options, right? It's crazy. This is kind of like, you expect good things coming off of 2 straight Joe Moore awards and Michigan's identity, how they like to run the football. They like to play physical up front. But man, it's like, I know when we've been discussing, it's kind of hard almost keeping track of like the different possibilities up front that they could finish this with. So
yeah, man, you wonder how many they're going to take. Those are good. That's called good problems, right?
Yes.
How many of these guys you're going to take? Because Max Anderson, who has a crystal ball in for Max Anderson? One of you guys, right?
I do.
All right, you got another O-line crystal ball in too, don't you, Steve?
Wait, no, I was thinking I was close on Guarnera, the center out of Florida. Almost. I think I wrote that I was close. Probably still going to hold off. Like, that's what I mean, though. That's what we talk about. I know we're going to mention Bennett Warren and some other guys. It's like, okay, well, now what? It's like, here he tells Brice that Michigan's leading. It's like, what? Like, they can't take like 8 guys.
Yeah, look,
you know what I mean?
A guy we haven't talked about in a minute, but he was one of the first names out of Jaden Davis's mouth because it's his childhood friend, and he visited Michigan earlier this year, is Walt Claire Flint.
Yeah.
Right? And so, it's so many guys, it said they can't take every guy. And then you wonder if you're gonna have a surplus at a position, how much of a surplus can you have in your recruiting class before it starts affecting the guys that are on your roster, right? So I think it's an interesting juggling act for them as they play this out. Because could they take 7 offensive linemen? I mean, they could probably, from a class size perspective, they probably could.
Right.
But is that does that work well for your room? So I think you're probably in the 5 to 6 range in this class. I don't know what you think about it, Brice, but at the end of the day, I think it'll be first come, first serve. With maybe, as Steve said, you hold a spot for your legacy guy, but other than that, I do think it's first come, first serve.
I do too. And the other thing that's interesting about this, talking about numbers, I didn't think about this until you brought this up, Sam, is they also brought in 2 transfers. Now, I don't know Nugent's status in terms of how many years he's got. Miles, I'm pretty sure he's got at least 2.
Yep.
So, I mean, let's just say, we're just hypotheticals, we're talking, you're probably going to obviously lose Zenner. You're probably going to lose Keegan.
No doubt.
I think Barnhart is done after this year.
He's in his final year too.
I'm not sure about Jones. So
you're another year, I think.
But you're losing a good majority of your offensive line. Now, here's the thing, and people joked, I think Jake Butt even said on the broadcast for the spring game, is your backup offensive line probably could start for half the Big Ten and probably be pretty good. Like Gio, Raheem.
Great in the game.
I mean, from the field level,
both those guys.
Amir Herring looked very good from the field level for me. I mean, I was watching. I'm not like some offensive line expert, but I mean, he looked pretty good. And then you got guys still coming in. Nathan Afobe, who I think is going to be very solid in years to come. So
Trente is. I guess time flies, fellas. Time flies. I guess I didn't.
19 class, isn't he?
They got here in the 19.
Yeah. Oh,
this is his 5th year. So yeah, I mean,
wow. I mean, so you need to take a lot, but here's the other problem too. Michigan has to ask themselves. All right, let's just say hypothetical, you do take 7. Most likely that means you're taking away numbers from some other position.
Mm-hmm.
Who's maybe safety? Maybe safety? But I mean,
well, you get Hillman late too. That
right.
gives them a little bit of flexibility defensive back wise. Most likely, I mean, he's probably on defense, but
it's like you're looking at some of the guys that Jay is recruiting. I don't think he's slowing down in terms of safety recruiting. So and he's on some talented guys, So I just that's my biggest question. Okay, let's say you do decide to take all 7, and things change. I mean, let's say Ben and Warren, he just took a visit, right? Loved it. He told me Michigan was the leader, but he still had that post-visit glow, Sam. And sometimes it wears off. And now here's the caveat to that. He set up an official visit already to Michigan. Now he also has 2 others to Oklahoma and Oregon. And I know Texas A&M is obviously in the mix as well. He's down there right by the school. So there's just a lot of moving parts, but it's a very good problem. This is a good problem Michigan should have. And this is one that you went back-to-back to more awards. You kind of expect things should be going this direction as well.
Yeah, man. And then we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, you may have mentioned it already, Steve. You got the #1 tackle in the country coming in for a visit this week in Brandon Baker. And this dude has been lights out for some time now. But you talk about a guy who has yet to fill out, and he's 285 right now. He's gonna be 300, 305. He's already a beast. Just getting him on campus is a big deal. Sharon putting in some work with this as well. You wonder can you pull him away from SC?
He's at Mater Dei, right?
He's at Mater Dei, right? He's at Mater Dei. So
right.
You get him on campus, you got a shot, and they're
That's
getting
true.
him on campus on an unofficial. On top of it, so that says something too.
Yep, I think SC Oregon's a school I know he's been really high on. I think what's interesting about this one, Brice, you talked to DeAndre Carter, right? His teammate after he visited.
Mm-hmm.
Always Michigan felt like their better chance with those 2 guys because DeAndre Carter, I believe, is a top 100, like Mater Dei California offensive lineman, right?
Yeah.
Really, really good player. The thought was that Michigan would have a better chance with Brandon Baker, so it's going to be really interesting to see how Michigan stands coming out of that visit because, again, that's a guy, if you're in it at all, then I think you'd if you're
He's got
thinking
a spot.
6 or
He's got a
7,
spot.
you might start
Right.
thinking about 7. I think, sort of along the lines of what you guys were talking about juggling and stuff. I think the other juggling act Michigan's got to think about is the desire or the opportunity to strike while the iron's hot, right? Like, 2 straight playoff appearances. Does Michigan load this class up, because they might not be, they're recruiting at a totally different, not a totally different level, but they're recruiting at a higher level than what we've seen them definitely compared to last year coming off the first Big Ten title. How do you like, again, it's like, can we sign like 38 guys? It's like, obviously, that never going to happen, but there are positions and spots where, do you kind of take advantage and then between the portal and next cycle, just really be picky about taking anybody because you're going to get a decent amount of guys that you like. But, again, once we get to 5, 6, guys may be interested, but then you also get to the point where kids don't want to be part of a 7-man offensive line class, no matter how talented they are. It's like, do I want to be part of a 7-man class at Michigan or a 4-man class at SC? So, right. So there's a lot of little things in there, but with Brandon Baker specifically, I think, Michigan will host. They'll pull out the red carpet and they'll see where they stand there. And, if they're even remotely, if they're top 3 or 4 there, I think they're going to keep recruiting him. So
you're ahead of the game if you're able to get some traction in that recruitment. You got a lot to sell. I mean, offensive line, there is no better program in the country right now. You can legitimately say that Michigan, and Sharon Moore is one of the hottest coaches in the game. He's an outstanding recruiter on top of it. We'll see how things go. I'll be interested to hear, and you will obviously hear on the MichiganInsider.com what Brandon Baker is saying coming out of that visit.